We've received a few questions about the HISPEEDIDO drop-in IPS kit for the Game Boy Advance, so we figured we would release an updated guide to address some of the questions. This kit includes the control board, the IPS screen, 2 pieces of protective film to avoid shorts, adhesive for the screen, 2 different ribbon cables for the 32 and 40 pin variants, 2 alignment pieces of acrylic, as well as a piece of foam. To get started, let's go ahead and solder the provided wires onto the control PCB. We'll start by tinning the pads with just putting a drop of solder onto each one. We only need left, right, and select. The ground pad won't be used. Once we have them tinned, we'll go ahead and get our wires, and all we really have to do is place them over top the points and tap them down. Now that the control PCB is ready, let's go ahead and prepare our adhesive for the shell. Let's remove the inner foam bit, and then we can go ahead and position the adhesive in the shell. The 2 skinnier sides should go on the right hand side and on the bottom. You'll notice once I have it stuck down, it doesn't look nearly as neat. Getting these placed can be rather difficult, so just take your time and try your best to keep all the adhesive out of the viewing window. You may have to push some back in. From here, we can go ahead and remove the other side of the protective film on the adhesive. We can then go ahead and place in our 2 spacers. The bigger one will go on the bottom side and the skinnier one will go on the left. From there, we can place our IPS screen into the viewing window. We'll want to position it into the very bottom left-hand corner up against the spacers. That should give you a perfect alignment. Now is the time to make any adjustments to the adhesive as well. You can use a small tool to push it back into place, just make sure not to touch the screen. Now we can connect the IPS screen to the control PCB. All we have to do is open the connector on the PCB and push the ribbon cable all the way in. You know it's all the way in when the white line lines up with the locking connector when it's locked. So put it in, go ahead and lock the connector down, and as long as it lines up with the white line, you're good. Now let's go ahead and bring in the motherboard so we can solder the optional buttons. We need to solder left, right, and select. There's a couple points you could solder the left and right buttons to, but we're just going to use the test points, so all the points are on the front of the motherboard. You need test point 8, test point 9, and test point 2. Test point 2 is select, test point 8 is right, and test point 9 is left. Next up, we go ahead and add in our buttons as well as their membranes to the shell. From there, we can go ahead and position our touch sensors. We'll want to have one near the bottom of the console so it's easily accessible, and one near the top. You may have to experiment with the positioning of your top one a couple times to get the right fitment and to ensure that it'll actually go ahead and sense your capacitive touch. So don't be afraid to move that touch point around a couple times if you have to. A tip for these touch sensors is to keep them away from areas that have power flowing through them. For example, don't put your top touch sensor near the ribbon cable, as this will cause false positives and make the kit think that you're pressing the button all the time. Another trick is that any copper tape will work as a touch sensor. So if you want to buy some copper tape and wire, you can relocate your touch sensors to wherever you want. If you notice at the very end of the video, I relocated this top touch sensor all the way down to the bottom to make it easier to press and make it more reliable. Now, we need to go ahead and choose the appropriate ribbon cable for whichever version of the console we have, either 32 or 40. In this video, I'll be using a 40 pin, so I'll go ahead and grab that cable. It'll go with the contacts facing down on the LCD control panel, and the contacts facing up on the motherboard. From here, you can fully rebuild your console. From there, we can go ahead and test our 2 touch sensors as well as our buttons to make sure that they all function as they're supposed to. As long as everything works, then you have a fully assembled HISPEEDIDO drop-in IPS kit. For more guides and content like this, please be sure to subscribe to our channel, check out our wiki linked below, and if you have any questions, you can always email us at support@handheldlegend.com or join our Discord, also linked below.